Clock, Pecan, 2 seconds. Pecan for the lead. Got it! He got the record at the buzzer! The bridge, brings for three, buried! Gallagher pulls up, Gallagher rims it out the field! Slams it down! Cooley up ahead, Dombrowski, the freshman off the window and one! Go back to Evans, corner three, got it! There's Lowe with the exclamation point! As Dunny slams it down! Far side, Dawson unloads, knocks it home, Jenna Dawson! By Teslavich, Epps puts it on the floor. Right, looks to drive in, Epps floats it up, got it! He got it! There's 1,000 for Bryce Epps!
Welcome into episode number 71 of the Valley Sports Guys podcast, here live from His Place Coffee Community and more in Monessen. I'm Jose Negron, joined by Jeremy Salou and Alex Lyons. Thank you to those who are tuning in here on this Wednesday morning for another episode of the Valley Sports Guys podcast. A couple weeks off, had a lot going on, basketball tab, the start of the winter sports season. We still have one team remaining in the hunt for a state championship in football, but we are back and good to be back, guys.
Yeah.
How you feel?
Tired.
Yeah.
But I'm here. But I'm here.
The last week has been very tiring, but very rewarding. We have a great show for you guys today. Going to be all local. We're going to start it out, obviously, by talking about the one team that everybody in the Valley is talking about, guys, right now. The WPIL Class 3A champion, Bell Vernon Area Leopards, still in the hunt for their first ever state championship. They will face Newman Goretti on Saturday at 1 p.m. At Cumberland Valley for the state title. And Bell Vernon, guys, they've been rolling. They were tested this past week on Friday night. Liam Bellin was there with full coverage of that semifinal matchup after their Whippeal Championship victory over Avonworth. But the Leopards seeking title number one here in the PIA Championship game.
Yeah. First of all, we have to congratulate them on winning the Whippeal Championship.
Right.
We haven't been back since then.
Yep.
They had a great semifinal win against Central Martinsburg last week, and now, they're going to get the opportunity to play for a state title. And honestly, guys, I think they do it. Mm-hmm. I think they're going to win this game. Obviously, it's not going to hurt that reportedly Newman Goretti's best player, BC recruit, is not going to be playing because he allegedly threw a punch in the last game and was ejected. So according to PIAA rules, he will not be eligible for this week.
But I have heard some things through the room.
They're going to try to slide him in.
You know how the state is.
I know how the state is. They're going to try to slide him in. And,
But see, that's what ticks me off about the state, because they will make sure they find a way to get him into that game.
Right.
But not to get off topic too far, but look at a sequence like last night with Steel Valley not being eligible to play because of the 5-game rule in basketball, but they'll let a guy get in the state championship who's been ejected because they want that on the floor.
Exactly.
Show me some consistency.
Exactly. And it's a shame if that's the case because, I would imagine Coach Barish, the Leopards defensive coordinator, and Coach Humber, they're preparing to face him regardless. I mean, it's a matter with the Leopards is they don't care who they're going to face. They're going to prepare the same way. But obviously it's going to help Newman Goretti, who, we always hear about the Philadelphia Catholic League constantly. And, here we are talking about him trying to get somebody else that shouldn't be playing into this game. But, not taking away from Bell Vernon, it's interesting that semifinal game, Quentin Martin only had 5 touches. It was all the Braden Locke show, especially with him with his feet. So congratulations to them. Unfortunately, I will not be going to the game. I was supposed to. I was planning on it. But Liam Bellin will be there. Mike will be there. I'll be watching, and I'll still be writing something off the game because I finally found somebody with a cable system that has PCN that I could watch the game for free, and I don't have to pay $12. But, I'm excited. I'm happy for him. I'm happy for for Coach Humbert. Finally got that Whitfield title. I mean, Mike's picture said it all, and how excited the team was to get him that championship. You could hear when they were handing off the trophy, like, give it to Coach, give it to Coach. They wanted that for him as much as they wanted it for themselves, and I think that's what makes a special team.
Yeah, and I think, too, Humbert said it best is, this championship is for, the guys who come through the program the last, 4 years, the guys who fell short against Thomas Jefferson in 2019, the guys who fell short last year against Aliquippa, even the guys who played on that semifinal team in 2020. It's for those guys, they couldn't quite get there, but, this team was able to get it. And, like you said, yeah, kudos to Coach Humbert and his staff. They wanted this one, and, they were able to do what they had to do in order to win it all.
Yeah, and, I think a lot of it you look at, like, you always hear around the area, a lot of people in Western Pennsylvania put more money on that district title. I think Bell Vernon's that group of individuals that didn't. They wanted it, and they knew it was just a stepping stone to get where they truly want to be, which is the state champions. Talking to Alonzo during the playoffs, that was his big thing. He said, I want both rings. I don't want just one, and I can't get the state one without getting the district one. And I think that's the big thing, that this team is so centered that it's not, we want a district title. That's awesome, fantastic, but we still have a bigger goal ahead of us. Right. And not many teams in this area, I think, truly continue to put that prevalence on that. But, I mean, there's still 3 Whitfield teams going in the state playoffs, which is great to see.
Right, and plus Westinghouse, they're practically a Whitfield team from the city league.
First time in
what
25
What a
years.
story for them too. Being able to play for a state championship. Unbelievable.
Union was a 10 seed.
Yeah.
Right.
And they just kicked the crap out of Port Allegheny in the first round.
Right, and no one expected them to even beat Bishop Canavan in the Class A Whitfield game. So. Great to see so much Whitfield representation in the state championship games. And I think the best thing for Bell Vernon is the fact that, teams are going to always prepare to try and stop Quentin Martin. But last week, Braden Locke showed you got to prepare for him too. You got to prepare for him. You got to prepare for Jake Jedico, the receiving core, the line. Bell Vernon just has a total team right now, and they're playing their best football at the right time. A challenge for sure last week against Central, but the defense persevered late to get that late stop, and as they have all season. We saw at the beginning of the season, during that gauntlet of games against McKeesport and Penn Trafford and TJ, Laurel Highlands, the defense was really what kept them in those games, especially the ones that they suffered slim losses. And so defensively, this Bell Vernon team is still top notch, and they're showing that they're fully capable of scoring in multiple ways on offense.
Yeah, and you talk about that big late game stop, but go back to the end of the first half when they held them Central Martinsburg to a field goal to end the half instead of Hohenstein getting that offense in the end zone. And you look at this Central Martinsburg team, very similar roster to they had last year, led by their quarterback Hohenstein, all the different wideouts. They absolutely made Central Valley look silly last year, and Bell Vernon went out there and did what they did and took care of business with the win. And from what I heard for some people who were in attendance, not even Bell Vernon people, just people that are actual officials, saying they tried everything everything they could do to make sure Central Martinsburg got on. But, that's just what I've heard.
Yeah.
But Bell Vernon, they hung tough. They got the win, and even without Quentin Martin having the big role, and he's so lethal, you have to prepare for him, that you lose focus of everybody else, and he makes everybody else around him better because of that.
Right, absolutely. And Quentin Martin and the Leopards will look to win their first state championship in program history Saturday. We will have coverage in Monday's edition of the Mon Valley Independent. Liam Bellin will be heading down. Mike Darnay will be heading down for coverage of that. Jeremy Slew will also have coverage on Monday regarding Bell Vernon's championship matchup. And guys, I know football season is technically still ongoing, but the winter sports season has arrived. We got basketball season just kick-started with our Mon Valley Independent Shootout Classic this past weekend. 10 games over the span of 2 days, and I thought it went off without a hitch as it did last year. But second annual event, great showing by all our teams, all fans in attendance, and our first time having it at Ringgold High School.
Yeah, I think it did go off without a hitch, and that's a big testament to the work of, not just myself, but, Naz Victoria, West Psycho. I know Alex had a lot to do, getting ready to stream all these games. I mean, it was totally a cumulative team effort. But I think the biggest thing is I think we found a home for it. I think it's going to stay at Ringgold. If you ask me, that would be my preference. It's kind of centrally located. We had some great games, I don't know about, what it meant for us, as a business, just because, Bell Vernon, was Bell Vernon. They didn't have a lot of players yet. I think that would have drawn a bigger crowd.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you can't fault for the football team for winning.
Well,
but, they still got that. There was still some buzz, though, because everybody wanted to see how Zion Moore comes into the system.
Right.
And there was a great moment in the one game, the second game, that, Coach Joe went after him in a huddle and said, hey, if you're not going to play defense, you're not going to play for me. It didn't look like watching some of the feed during my game last night. I was watching Alex's feed. It didn't seem like playing defense was much of an issue for Zion, in that game. It seems like he hung with his opponent pretty well. He's going to get his points, and it's scary to think how good they're going to be once they're at full strength. I think TJ, they lost last night, but, they were impressive in both of their games. Evan Berger, the most outstanding player, of course. And, South Allegany's looking strong.
Yeah.
I mean, jumping up to 4A, I mean, there's still a lot to be seen from them. But when you got Bryce and Cam Epps and, you have Justin Beatty adding 14, 12, 10 points per game.
They did all
they're
that
gonna be
without
tough.
Michael Mahalski.
And they did it with and he should be back this week, I think,
Right.
Coach DeCenzo said. So, the basketball season around the Valley is going to be really good again this year.
Right.
We saw a lot of teams in action for the first time last night. But overall, the tournament, I think it was a great success. We had a lot of people helping us out. All the staff at Ringgold just did a great job putting it off, and I think that, it's here to stay. Talking to Naz last night, I think we're going to tweak a couple things, but nothing major.
Yeah. Also having it a week before we had it last year, too. I mean, last year we had, I believe, December, 14th,
It was the 10th.
15th?
It was the 9th and 10th.
It was
It was
the
the
9th and
first
10th,
weekend, yeah.
So,
But the weekend's earlier. I mean, the
Yeah.
season starts earlier. It's still going to be I know some people were asking about moving it because, honestly, let's be honest, we're probably going to be in the same situation with Bell Vernon this next year as well. So unless something crazy happens, sorry, Coach Humbert, I don't want to put more pressure on your kids, but you're looking at like the favorites next year. But, it is what it is. It's still a work in progress. But, again, I think 3 steps ahead of where we were last year.
Yeah.
So it was a great event. It was great to see Monessen there after the tragedy that happened here in the city. It looks like they're starting to get a little bit back to normal, after watching some of their stuff last night that you had. But, yeah, I think we got a lot of good, talented basketball teams here in the Valley, and, I think it's the best way to showcase it, for sure.
How about the weekend the Clareton Bears had, too?
Doubling their win total from last year. You can't ask for anything more. I know.
And not just that, but looking pretty darn good in doing it against two pretty solid teams.
Yeah, and I mean, I know Charleroi still missing Bryce Large, but I think that Clareton showed the Devin Dean injury last year was obviously critical to what happened to them and going 1-18. I think they're going to be a whole different team this year, and we couldn't be happier for them because, you always hear about the success of the Clareton football team, but now the basketball team is going to be a team to be reckoned with. They're in a very tough section with, Sarah again and, Greensburg Central and Jeanette, but I think they're going to be a team to be dealt with because they are very balanced. They had, I think 3 or 4 guys in double figures the other night. So
Hines consistently.
Yes,
Dean
Hines.
consistently,
Capone Jones.
Yes.
Yep.
And then Caden Smith hasn't really got going yet, and he's going to be, I think,
Right.
really good for them.
And you have Michael Ruffin, who's just a freshman. He's a starter on that team. So once he gets rolling and gets caught up to the varsity game speed and everything like that, they're going to be dangerous. I think, Coach Hatton's done a great job just from year 1 to year 2. You could see the big differences, and I think it's going to be about time we're not going to say Clareton's just a football school.
No, he said he expects his team to compete for the section this year.
Right.
And, talking to him, I said, Devin wasn't necessarily leading scorer both days, but he meant so much more than that. Just that leadership, that calming influence that a guy like Devin Dean brings to your program is absolutely huge because he makes, again, like we say, everyone else around him better because he draws so much attention and he's such a calming influence out there. One of the most well-mannered kids probably in the Valley in Devin Dean, and it's great to see him having that success coming off that atrocious injury before football last year.
Yeah, and you look at it too. They beat a shorthanded Elizabeth Forward team on Friday. Saturday, Charleroi did have their full complement of players. Bryce Large did return after missing Friday's game against Ringgold, and they convincingly were able to come out with a win there too. So, 2 big victories for Clairton. Like Jeremy said, doubled their win total from last year, and that's the thing too. Is just seeing the results early is going to really take them above and beyond the rest of the way. I think it was great to see them be able to get out to that type of start. And like you guys said, I mean, Rashad Hatton, he's a Clairton guy. He played, he was in the shoes of these kids, back when he played too. So, it's great to see him having success and seeing the guys reap the benefits of their work throughout the offseason.
I think we finally waited a day and a half, but we finally got that big game we were looking for when TJ played McKeesport.
Yep.
McKeesport, I think, if they put all the pieces together, I think they're going to be a formidable foe for anybody they face. Look at last night. They fell down big to a good Woodland Hills team, and they had a shot at the buzzer to win it, or to tie it. So I just think that we saw how good Evan Berger really is. I mean, 42 and 29 points in his 2 games this weekend. I think he had 20-something last night as well.
And then he went on that late run in the McKeesport game.
Yeah, the three dunks. I think 2 or 3 straight baskets, 2 dunks, to give them the lead.
I mean, he is something special.
Thomas Jefferson's going to be a good team. They dropped a close one to Baldwin last night, but it's going to be fun to watch this season. There's a lot of good teams. We're going to do our best to cover everybody as much as we can. But I'm really looking forward to getting into the swing of hoop season. I know the games are kind of light the rest of this week, and even next week we got some games on the 13th, and then, not many teams play again for a week. So
until the holidays.
It's going to be real. It's going to be real interesting. I'm forecasting. I think December 20th is when we'll see Bell Vernon's full complement because they play at Bishop Cannon Monday. They got to have 5 practices in before they can, play. So I think Coach Joe's going to put a compact practice schedule together, even if it's just an hour or a film session.
Yeah.
And the thing about Bell Vernon is they're going to be so deep this year. You could regulate those guys' minutes when they get back. Mm-hmm. So, I expect to see them as soon as possible. It looks like it's going to be the game against McKeesport here a little less than 2 weeks away.
Yeah,
and talking to Dana last night, he said they expect everyone to be back for that game.
Yeah, and I really don't expect there to be a lot of rust early on for most of these guys.
No, I don't think
Quentin
so.
Martin, Alonzo Wade, I think those 2 in particular are just going to kind of go right in and just and do what they do from the beginning. The rest of them might take some time to kind of get acclimated and get going. But
and they've been showing up. They've been at the games besides that Friday night game.
And that's what the Saturday, being able to be at that Saturday game. I mean, Jeremy talked to Salvino about it, and he was really happy to see them.
And there were some of them there last night, I know,
both
as well.
Wade's,
and,
was there, yeah.
They, Coach Salvino really appreciates those guys making the time, to be with their teammates and still support their teammates, since they can't support them and be on the bench and be ready to go. I mean, I know some of them are still on the bench, but not in uniform. And I think that's important when it goes to when you're trying to figure out how you're going to plug Zion into the puzzle, like he called it. It's just a jigsaw puzzle. As soon as you find that right piece and where he's going to be, Bell Vernon's going to be very good this year.
And
they're very, very good.
It was cool. Zion made this incredible feed to Bellissimo last night, and Quentin on the bench absolutely freaked out. And I think I
was watching it.
I said on the broadcast that Quentin really excited about getting those passes in a couple weeks from Zion. I mean, and that's the difference. We saw Zion at times, and I really was worried what we would see out of Zion this first couple weeks of the season is what we saw in the summer when Howard Hanna was short on players and Zion went hero ball, did everything himself. He has done the exact opposite. He's put himself into this system so when he gets all this talent around him, he doesn't have to change the way he's playing. He's been consistently dishing the ball off. He hasn't been a selfish player, at least it appears in my opinion, compared to what – and I'm not saying he was selfish in the summer, but
he had to be.
When you have 5 guys and he was really the only one with varsity experience, he had to.
I mean, and let's be honest, and this is no way that I'm knocking the kids at all, but like, with the exception of Kovac, sparingly, how much time are those other guys going to see once the football players come back?
Bellissimo at the end of games.
Yeah, maybe
again.
Tommy Davis. I mean, you can't coach 6'6".
He's not even playing right now.
Yeah,
he
wasn't
hurt.
in. He got hurt.
I'll tell you one player that impressed me. He didn't score, but Preston Rathway,
I
his
was
first
gonna
game,
say, yeah,
his defense was incredible last night.
Yeah, and that's something Salvino wants, And you could see Rathway wasn't comfortable with the ball in his hands because he was giving it up quick. But
he's an athlete.
He's an athlete, and that's going to be Bell Vernon's MO. So I'm looking forward to big things from them. I think that, they're going to be challenged this year. Uniontown is very, very good, very athletic. Much like they are, but I just think when it comes down to it, even Laurel Highlands, we know they got Gallagher, we know they got the Shields, but are they going to be as deep as Bell Vernon is? I don't think so. So there's going to be a good push in that section, and I think it's one of the toughest sections in 4A. So
I would say
we're gonna see big things out of that whole section this year.
It's either that section or the section South Allegheny's in when you have
Right.
Montour, Quaker,
Avonworth,
yeah, that's a tough one too.
Yep. We had more coverage in today's Mon Valley Independent. We'll kind of run through and recap some of yesterday's action. I had a rivalry matchup that's, obviously a big one in every sport, Monessen and Charleroi. Monessen with a big 55-24 victory over the rival Cougars. Lorenzo Gardner, second straight game where he puts up 29 points. Jayshon Blackman with 16. Ben Shields led the way with 12 for Charleroi. But just a quick start for Monessen. I mean, they go up 18-3 after one quarter. They forced 13 turnovers in the first, 17 in the first half in total, and I believe had 24 turnovers forced throughout the game, and that comes a game after they forced 31 against Ringgold on Saturday. But Monessen's starting to get going. I know Coach Bosnick wasn't happy about their performance against South Allegheny on Friday night. Said it kind of lacked energy for a season opener, wasn't what they wanted
rightfully so,
to start the season out with, and rightfully so.
They've been through a lot.
It's been mentally draining, I'm sure, and emotionally draining for these kids and for the entire community. So, but they bounced back over the last two games. Gardner has led the way as kind of expected him to do with 29-point performances in a row. And defensively, I mean, they're just coming out with energy yesterday. I've never seen a more hyped JV game than what I saw at the end of that game yesterday. Monessen wins it in the final seconds on a game-winning layup. The Monessen student section was going crazy. And it was kind of just what you expect from Monessen Charleroi. And, Coach Bosnick said, I never really have to wonder about what our energy level is going to be like for this game because it's a game that our guys always get up for. It's a game that Charleroi always gets up for. And on the Charleroi side, Bill Wiltz just wants them to forget about this game. He's not going to mention Monessen. They said they're not going to watch film, just going to move on. I know they have, I believe, California in their next game next week. So Charleroi going to look to bounce back from two straight losses after getting a win over Ringgold in their season opener. But yeah, that was the matchup I had last night. I know Landon Urcho made history with his 1,000th career point for the Bentworth Bearcats in their victory over Jefferson Morgan. Scored 17 of his 21 points in the first half. He only needed 4 coming into the game. Adam Brewer had coverage of that one in today's Mon Valley Independent. And then, Jeremy, you mentioned McKeesport falling short of that rally against Woodland Hills. Liam Bellin had the story in today's MVI. So, ton of local action on page 1. And then, of course, you had an old friend over at Elizabeth Ford, Mr. Justin Walther.
The old sausage head himself, Justin Walther. Came back to Elizabeth Ford, a job which he actually did interview for when Coach Larry was being hired. It was good to see him again. He kind of it made me feel good. It kind of reminded me of when I get home with my daughter. His face lit up when I walked in the gym.
Yeah,
so
not
it was
a lot
great.
of people light up when you walk in.
Yeah, a lot of people are like, "Oh God, here he comes." But it was good to see him, good to catch up a little bit. Really impressed with him, and it was the same thing for Elizabeth Ford. Elizabeth Ford started hot. I mean, they were up 25-9, 16-point lead with 5 minutes left in the second quarter, and then from there it was all Plum, let me get my story here. I believe I mentioned what the run was, but it was a long run. They outscored them 19-4 through the remainder of the first half, and then started the second half on a 14-2 run. Coach Walther, we know he's a great coach. He led Sarah Catholic to a Whippeal championship appearance. So we know he obviously knows what he's doing. He switched some things up, switched the defense up a little bit. And then his guys started to knock down shots. And, but the biggest thing for him was they picked up the defensive intensity. Coach Larry said it as well. It's weird, and it has to be tough for the Warriors to see, you see Charlie Mealive in the stands. Charlie came up and talked to me a little bit. He's hoping to be back next week. But you see Zach Boyd out there with the guys warming up. And, Makai Daniels came in a little bit into the first quarter and was there watching. It has to be tough seeing those guys and knowing that you don't have the opportunity to play with them right now. We're not sure if we're ever going to see Zach Boyd again. But, Charlie will be back, so that will help. Hopefully Makai Daniels comes back. That's going to help. And, other than Isaiah Turner and Charlie, there's no real varsity experience, and that's what Coach Larry was talking about. It's just a matter of getting these other guys in practices up to snuff and ready for varsity experience. One player that looks ready is Drew Cook. Him and Turner each had 20 points last night for the Warriors. But I think the difference is Drew Cook still shows signs of just being a freshman. There's a lot of experience that he still needs to gain. But, the kid has a killer instinct, and he's not afraid of anybody that he goes up against. He went up against guys a lot bigger than him last night, took the ball strong to the hole. So there's definitely high expectations for him, not only in just his career, but, as this season wears on and the role he's going to play for them. But, like Coach Larry said, they can't start using they don't have these other guys as an excuse anymore. Mm-hmm. It's a matter of just continuing to get better and playing with who you got. They'll be in the section soon. But, they're still playing a tough non-conference slate. Plum's a 5A school. They're in the same situation, first-year coach under Walther. But, they were definitely still above where the Warriors are at right now. They knocked down some good shots. I think Will Beckner hit 4 or 5 3-pointers at key moments. It seems like he was the big shot guy for them. But, Plum finished with 5 guys in double figures, and when Walther was at Sarah Catholic, they had Jimmy Moon, but we always saw 3 or 4 other guys, in double figures. So it looks like, Walther's putting his stamp on that program as well. And, it was good to see him again and, get to talk to him. And, he admits he misses us. So, but, there's some Mon Valley Independent newspapers hanging on his office door at Plum High School today. So, but the Warriors, I think they'll bounce back. I think getting Mealive back will definitely help because a lot of where Plum attacked was around the basket. They were cutting to the hoop and, getting good looks and, making an extra pass. And I think, you add 6'3", 200-some pounds into the middle, and it's going to be a little bit tougher for that to happen going forward.
Yeah, and I think, too, a big thing for EF through the first 3 games, at least the last 2, actually, I should say, is Isaiah Turner kind of taking his game to another level. We talked to Nolan Larry about that the other day. Just, he's such a selfless kid when it comes to his, style of basketball. He's always going to look for the open man if he doesn't have a shot. Right. And I think, him taking over some games, he took over in the first half, of their loss the other day. And that's what they needed. Against Sarah Catholic, they needed him to step up late in that first half, and he helped EF take a slim lead into the half. And then, in the second half, kind of saw some struggles there for EF down the stretch. But, Turner is good enough to be the guy. And, Nolan Larry wants that to even be the case when Charlie Mealive and Makai Daniels come back is, they still want Isaiah Turner to take his shots, to, take his game to another level where, they expect, they know that he can. They know how good he is, and it's just a matter of really Isaiah Turner knowing how good he is.
Yeah, absolutely. He has all the potential. It's just get yourself into that mindset.
Yeah.
Let yourself allow yourself to play with confidence, and you're going to be able to do a lot more things.
Right. And Coach Larry said he kind of put a little bit on himself because Turner started out hot too. He finished with 20 points, but from like midway through the to the first quarter to the midway through the third quarter, he was non-existent. So,
and that's the same thing that happened in day 2 on Saturday.
Yeah.
And Coach Larry said, it's not just on the kid, not working hard enough to maybe get open or something like that, or to ask for the ball, but it's a matter of the coaches have to put him in that position as well, maybe switch some things up, or slide him to the 3 spot, or some trying to do other things. And Coach Larry put that on himself as well. So it's kind of a group effort there, and they'll work it out, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we're only 3 games in, so a lot of work to do.
No, I fully expect this EF team to compete for a playoff spot. I mean, you mentioned the gauntlet that they have in that section, with Bell Vernon, with LH, with Uniontown. I mean, EF is right there. There's no doubt that they're in that in contention for a playoff spot out of that section. But they definitely need to get healthy.
I think it's a pretty clear top 4 if everybody's healthy.
Right.
I mean, I think it's going to be your Uniontown, your Bell Vernon, your EF, and your Laurel Highlands if everybody's healthy.
Right.
But again, a big if. But speaking of EF, just switching on the other side of things, how about the Lady Warriors last night over Trinity on the road? Big win for them again, as Coach Crystal Gibbs has that squad rolling in the right direction, even with those 3 big losses of Brinson, Briggs, and Markland. As the Warriors once again victorious. I mean, they got some good young talent on that Warrior roster with some veteran players, and they've been pretty successful to start the campaign, in a big win against one player we know pretty well in Eden Williamson.
Eden Williamson did not play.
Yeah,
makes sense, but
she did not play. But Coach Gibbs, I talked to her a little bit last night. She texted me after the win, and she said they still have a lot of work to do. It was a good win, definitely over an established 5A program, so she's really excited about that. But also, they're so young. I mean, can you keep getting the production you're getting out of Kaylin Settles? Because you're going to need it, going forward. It's going to be fun to watch. They've been very balanced. It was, a lot of, 3 double figure scorers.
Terza and Zombek were in double
and
figures.
obviously knowing from the summer league who to watch, Terza was, I think she was held to 10, right?
Yeah.
So, it was the other girls that needed to step up. And, obviously with Williamson out, it changed what Trinity likes to do. But, I mean, they still have a lot of talent there. So, it was definitely a good win and a statement win, I think, for Elizabeth Ford, because I think now Elizabeth Ford has jumped into the favorites role in their section.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, Southmoreland is going to be lucky to win a game this year.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that.
They're not going to be
good,
bad. They're still a good team.
I think they're still going to be a
in
playoff
the section,
team
they'll
in
be
that section.
I don't.
They'll finish section. They're going to
Because
finish
here's the
second.
issue. They have no one that can handle the ball on that team.
They got Reagan Carson's. He's doing just fine.
I can tell you that's not true, Jeremy.
She's their leading scorer, so it has to be true.
I mean, it doesn't matter if you can be the leading scorer on a team and not be good. I mean, I'm telling you
Okay.
I'm telling you, watching them in person, how bad they looked.
Well, I'm going to tell you, and I hate to say this, watching them in person, how bad Bell Vernon is.
No, I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing with you there either.
Bell Vernon can't get the ball off the court, and that's going to be a big problem.
I think that with that section, I think Southmoreland can compete.
Southmoreland's going to finish. Southmoreland's going to finish second.
You look at how they play. Yeah, and they probably didn't play very well, but they're also playing a 5A team in Thomas Jefferson that has talent, and they're under a new head coach. I'm sure they're playing I don't know how their style is compared to what they did last year, but I think the Southmoreland team's still going to be in the hunt. Are they the favorites anymore? No. I think Elizabeth Ford has established themselves early on here. If they can continue what they're doing right now, if they did this against Trinity, they're going to be the favorite in that section, especially with the depth that they have with these young players. I mean, you mentioned Kaylin Settles, Julia Resnick has really established herself as a key contributor. We saw Michelle Jellison have the game that she had the other day, where she had a game-winning shot late. Chloe Zombek, Alyssa Terza, Jocelyn Dawson. So there's a lot of depth here for EF, and I think that it's safe to say that they are probably the top dog. And anything can happen. Anything can happen. Southmoreland could falter and could I guess get worse as the season goes on. I don't know if I see that happening, but anything's possible. EF could run away with the section. Bell Vernon, they have talent on their team, so obviously they can improve as the season goes on. We're only 3 games in, So it's hard to say what will happen, but through the first few games, it definitely looks like EF is legit as a top contender there. Anything else on that?
No, I got nothing else.
But so make sure you do pick up a copy of today's Mon Valley Independent for full coverage of yesterday's action. We got a full roundup of contests, a lot that went on yesterday. I guess we can run through the roundup a little bit and kind of key in on some certain matchups. Of course, you mentioned Zion Moore dropping a game-high 29 yesterday in Bell Vernon's victory over Steel Valley. Alex, you had that for MVI Live, and had to be nice for Bell Vernon to get out to a win to start the year. I know it was a shorthanded Steel Valley squad, so had they had Mackay Valentine in the lineup, I don't know, is Cruz Brookins playing basketball?
Cruz was there yesterday. Barksdale was there yesterday. I mean, obviously not playing. Valentine wasn't there. He was a little under the weather, their head coach told me. So he might not have played either way,
right. But still, without that, add those guys.
Add one of those guys even, and it's probably a pretty decent game because then you have Zion versus one top guy. And I kind of joked with Zion before the game. I said, if Mackay was coming, I was going to walk up to him and say, hey, remember when you and Zion went and traded 40-point games? Can we just do that tonight and play hero ball? But no Mackay last night. He'll be eligible for their next game. They're all going to be eligible on Saturday, those Steel Valley players, but they don't play till they play Thomas Jefferson next week.
Gotcha. So ran through the rest of the roundup. California, a 66-39 victory over Best Center. South Allegheny moves to 3-0 on the season with a 61-35 win over Albert Gallatin. 20 points for Bryce Epps, 14 for Justin Beatty. 72-58 win for Baldwin over Thomas Jefferson. Yock, a 55-39 winner over South Park, behind 28 points from Tarek Crosby and 13 from Austin Matthews. On the girls' side, 27-16 victory for Brownsville over the Fraser Commodores. 51-40 victory for Apollo Ridge over South Allegheny. 60-29 Greensburg-Salem victorious over Ringgold. We mentioned the Elizabeth Ford win over Trinity. Sarah Catholic's girls with a season-opening 53-16 win over Sewickley Academy. 3 in double figures led by Riley Albaugh and her 12 points. 11 for Bree Battles, 10 for Kate Clark. A 46-43 victory for Blackhawk over McKeesport. A 6A team over a 5A team with that victory for Blackhawks. 16 points for Brooke Evans, Rachel Manfredo with 10. And then a little swimming action. Bell Vernon boys with a 79-48 win over West Mifflin. West Mifflin's girls an 85-73 victory over the Leopards. But that's all our coverage for today's Mon Valley Independent. A ton of local coverage, as usual, in today's MVI, so be sure to pick up a copy whenever you head to your local convenience store today.
Or just subscribe.
Subscribe. Yeah, you don't just have to pick up a copy.
We'll throw it on your porch. Well, at least in your yard. You'll get it.
It'll be somewhere.
It'll be there.
But any other local? Well, we do have to give a shout out to for a fellow or a certain all-state volleyball player.
We do.
Two of them.
We got two of them.
One of them being Fraser's Jensen Hartman.
Her and Delaney Concannon.
From Thomas Jefferson.
Jefferson.
So
they were named all-state yesterday, so big congrats to them.
Yeah. Any other local things we need to kind of...
I don't know. I had a list, and I left it at home.
Oh, good.
But, I don't know really what else we have all going on. I mean, we have a lot going on. Hopefully by the end of this week, beginning of next week, we'll have our soccer All-Stars announced, and then our football All-Stars announced. I know I sent you guys the list of nominees from the soccer side. Mm-hmm. We got to get the boys list, and then we'll have those. And then I don't know. Other than that,
we're a little less functional in terms of the design of
these
what
seasons,
we're doing right now because everything is happening at
it's amazing how much that extra week between seasons meant for us as well.
It was an easier transition for sure.
Yeah, so there's just a lot going on. Don't worry. We're not slacking by any means.
No, we're still putting out great content. As you can see from today's paper, as you saw from Saturday's paper, Monday's e-edition, full coverage of the MVI Shootout Classic, and still had, recaps of all the other tournaments that were happening in the area, both Friday and Saturday. So you're going to get your best local sports coverage in the Mon Valley Independent. I'm biased, but, that's just how I feel. So.
Absolutely. And I know Monday we're sitting down to plan the MVI Girls Shootout Classic, which is coming up Martin Luther King Jr. weekend. I almost said July. January 13th and 14th at California High School. We got some decent local squads there, as well as one non-local squad, but with a familiar face. We'll have Bell Vernon, Monessen, Charleroi, South Allegheny, Sarah Catholic, California, and Thomas Jefferson, as well as our buddy Matt Loftus and his South Park squad coming on Friday.
Matt in
blue.
In blue instead of the
like there's
the
there's like no other bigger difference than seeing somebody in red and black and now blue and white.
Yeah.
So but it'll be good to catch up with him as well. Another familiar face on that coaching staff is Ronnie Drennan, former Bell Vernon coach. So, which is who South Park will be playing on Friday night.
Interesting matchup for the first night of that one. We'll be sure to have full coverage, just like we did for the boys tournament this past weekend. So very excited about that. I will say I'm excited about my assignment for Friday night, which is a showdown between the Laurel Highlands Mustangs and the McKeesport Tigers.
Yeah.
That should be a pretty solid game, especially after the performance that McKeesport was able to put together once they kind of got things going yesterday against a very good Woodland Hills team. So we'll see what happens there. We'll have full coverage in Saturday's Mon Valley Independent for that one.
I think Friday for Saturday morning's paper, I'll be breaking down the state championship game. I'm supposed to talk to Coach Humbert on actually tomorrow, but I'm going to try to get in touch with Newman Goretti's head coach and try to talk to him a little bit, because I'm really interested to see. Number one, I want to hear it from the horse's mouth if Battle's going to play or not. But I also want to see how other teams prepare for this Bell Vernon team, who is clearly more than just Quentin Martin. So trying to go behind enemy lines and get some details. So it'll be interesting to hopefully get to talk to him and see what they're going to offer. But it's always fun in these these PIAA games when it's it's usually the Pittsburgh region against the Philadelphia region, and that Philadelphia Catholic League, who is a powerhouse. We all know it, especially in basketball. But both of these teams are looking for their first state title, so it's gonna be fun to watch. I'm looking forward to it. I get my mother-in-law's house to myself. They can go lunch with Santa, and I'm gonna hang out and watch football. So
okay, good.
Right after my BVA Metro team puts a hurting on Connellsville.
Cool.
Yeah.
And also 4th straight year that we will have a state championship to cover. 2 straight years of Thomas Jefferson in 2019 and 2020 last year. Sarah Catholic getting there, and now this year with Bell Vernon. So it's going to be a little different not being at Hershey. But
yeah, my knock against Hershey was the accommodations weren't great. The press box was tiny. But being in Hershey, you see the roller coaster in the background.
I think it was just a better
we took our inaugural, every year we get to do the Chocolate World Tour and everything. But it's not going to be the same. But, Mike and Liam will hook us up. They'll take good care of us out there. Like I said, I booked their room for them on Saturday at the tournament, so they're all set to go. I know they're leaving Friday night, so they'll be there bright and early on Saturday. So follow Liam on Twitter, and Mike will have great pictures as always. So we're looking forward to it.
This is Liam's first state championship trip. I remember our first one to Penn State for Yawk's softball game. That was a great trip. So I'm sure Liam will remember this one as well. But he'll have full coverage in Monday's e-edition of Bell Vernon's quest for a state title. But what's the MVI Live schedule looking like for the rest of the week?
Some hockey tomorrow.
I will be there with you as well.
EF Morgantown,
Ringgold and Morgantown.
Ringgold, Morgantown, EF Central Valley.
Yep.
So that should be a big win for at least EF. They need some wins. Ringgold, they've been Ringgold this year besides one kind of game, and it's kind of proven Ringgold's going to be the team to beat in the blue division. Gold is stacked with the top 3, but Now, Ringgold should be another semifinal style team again this year for the Rams after losing their goalie and a lot of other players to graduation. Goalie, of course, moving to play some amateur hockey, but they've been doing a great job. Coach Kalinowski always has his guys going in the right direction. Then at EF and Central Valley. Central Valley, not known for their hockey prowess. Normally winless by the end of the year.
They're a football school, I think.
Oh, yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And then Swickley Academy will hit the road to take on the Eagles on Friday night. We'll be there.
Yeah, and
I will have a good game tomorrow. I forgot where I was going. I will have Sarah Catholic and EF girls.
Yeah.
So that should be a good game. Sarah Catholic, small in numbers, but they got talent 1 through 8. So I'll be eager to catch up with
for both teams.
Catch up with Coach Bacco and get to see the Warriors in person again. So
sky high for the confidence has to be sky high right now for EF after.
Absolutely,
yesterday.
I would definitely imagine so.
Good local matchup though.
Yeah, but check out tomorrow's MVI. I know Liam did a story on Jackson Klinger, kid from Charleroi who got to go play some good baseball in Florida a couple weeks ago. And then I'll have a column where I'm going to spout some nonsense.
Oh boy!
Right now, I got the Bell Vernon School Board in my sights.
That's
so
good.
We're going to see how that goes. So,
cool.
Making friends every day.
Yeah, you do that a lot.
I do.
We'll wrap things up here. A 46-minute episode. We don't get those
I like
very
it.
often.
I like it.
I'm okay with it. Yeah, we're gonna kind of skip out on our national discussion.
You know why? Because Nick's not here and he talks so much.
It really brings it the
really
time down.
jacks the time up.
Yeah.
When Nick's here, I mean, at least 30 minutes of him talking.
Yeah. So, we're gonna skip some national discussion. We'll get to our segments next week. We're feeling pretty jolly. We're not too bad. We'll save Jeremy's
For the column.
His column will be his segment for this week. But
it will.
Thank you to all those who have tuned in here this morning. Thank you to His Place for hosting us as usual, allowing us to spout our nonsense. If you don't follow us on social media, all of our platforms, whether it's our personal Twitter accounts, our personal Instagram accounts, we have a TikTok now.
We do have a TikTok now. There's only a couple videos on it.
Follow us on
TikTok. We did not do a good job at the tournament.
I have nothing to do with it.
Well, you're going to start having something to do with it. Then you're going to be fired. So I don't want to hear it.
Looks like
it's part of your
if
job.
anyone is hiring, please give me a call. But with that being said, thank you for tuning in. We will see you guys next week. For Jeremy Salou, for Alex Lyons, I'm Jose Negron. Have a good Wednesday, everybody.